absolute delight, please welcome Barry Ross.
Good afternoon. Can you hear okay? Yeah. So brand new. Well, thanks for the introduction. I guess with the old school hospitality bit, you gave my age away. I've been in the industry 30 odd years, did some time in operations, fell into HR through the training and development path, and I've done lots and lots of things. And so when Shania asked me to come and have a chat with you this afternoon, and she said to me the topic was brand new, it was a bit of a head scratcher, to be honest. I wasn't quite sure how to tackle the subject, but the one thing I do want to say and state right up front is that I'm here, and this might sound a bit weird, I'm here because I really do care. I got into HR because as you heard early on, when I was in standard 8, I think the grade was at grade 10 now, right? I had to make a career choice. Didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. All I knew was that I liked to help people. And so I tried to figure out what could I do that would allow me to help people. And so I'm here today really because I like to help people. And if I've got something today which I can share with you which will help you, then I think I've done the job. So brand new, what does that mean? So I'm going to address two components. And this is based on stuff that I've learned over many years, right? I'm also going to talk to you about what the employer is going to look for, because as I'm looking around the room, my guess is that all of you are studying right now because you want a job. Anyone here who's got a very, very, very wealthy family who's going to pay them to do nothing for the rest of their lives? So you're all looking for a job. So I want to talk to you about what it's going to take for you to get and keep a job. In other words, I want you to understand from an employer's point of view what you need to do. But before I get there, there's a couple of things that I want to share with you. I grew up in the 1990s, which means I matriculated towards the end of the 80s. So you can kind of get the sense of I've lived a few years. When in the 90s, if you go and Google it, you'll see it. There was this thing called the yuppie culture. And those of you who were around then, or just after then, will remember what the yuppie culture was all about. Basically what the message was dress for success. If you wear Armani, and you have Gucci shoes, and a Rolex watch, and you've got the latest hairstyle, you've got it made. That's all you need. Well, the 90s came and went, and the yuppie culture died. And the reason for that is because of a small truth, which is actually quite a big truth, that I want to leave with you today. And if you get this, you will set yourself up for a successful career, whatever you choose to do. So I was having a conversation a short while back with my 15-year-old. And you know that bumper sticker that says, quick, hire a teenager while they still know everything. It is true. I was talking to her about a thing which I won't bore you with, but I was trying to get her to commit to something and to give it some time so she could learn it and she could master it and she could become good at it. But of course, social media tells you today that you can have everything instantly. No? Practice. We were talking to Shania out earlier on outside, and she said to me, "Oh, practice makes perfect." And that's to a large degree true, but practice also makes permanent. If you practice the wrong stuff, you're going to get the wrong stuff. It's garbage in, garbage out. So give yourself time to practice and hone your craft. Now, here's the lesson, I suppose, that I learned out of the yuppie culture. Out of that time, developed what one might call the personality ethic versus the character ethic. You don't hear too much these days about character. You hear lots about personality. You hear lots about what, how cool you have to be, or how, what's my daughter call it? She says, how rad you have to be. Or, anyway. So, what I took away from that time and that learning was that if you're going to base your life, if you're going to base your career on your personality, you're going to at some point run into trouble. And I'll explain why in a short while. Question for you. I see all of you are chefs, right? Or most of you are chefs. So here's a question for you. Feel free to answer it. Who decides on what quality is? Anyone?
I believe you as the person preparing whatever you're preparing decide what the quality is.
You as the person preparing whatever you're doing. I heard someone whisper quietly, the head chef. Okay? It's probably not incorrect if you're working in his kitchen. But here's a thought for you. The customer decides what quality is. You have to figure out what the customer wants and deliver it. Now, exactly the same principle applies in the world of work. You have to figure out what the customer wants and deliver it, the customer being the employer. You don't get to pitch up there with your diploma like I did and think you can change the whole service process of a restaurant in one afternoon, because you get your rear end kicked. So you need to make sure as a prospective employee that you've understood your market. And that's where this thing called the personality versus the character ethic comes in. So, what do employers want? It's dead simple. They want the skills. You're getting them now. You will leave your employee, your training institute skilled to get into the employment arena. You will have to then make some adjustments to what you are prepared to do in order to be successful. The first thing you need to be really, really clear on is be on time. Show up. It's not important that you dress in Armani, I promise you. The employer doesn't care. Be on time, pitch up, ready to do the day's work. Sorry, it sounds like I'm preaching a bit. Try to develop common sense. Every employer wants someone who can think. And if you can think like the customer thinks, you could be the head chef, but ultimately whoever you're going to serve, you'll start to get a sense of what's required to be successful. My late father-in-law used to say, common sense is amazing, it's just not very common. And it's the truth. And your common sense will develop out of the skills that you've learned in your learning environment. But now you've got to figure out, how do I apply those skills in a way that's going to make me marketable? In other words, how is that going to become part of my brand? Then employers want you to look for a better way. They might not tell you this, but they do. What they just don't want you to do is try to do that like I did, all in one afternoon, all by yourself, without talking to anybody. So if you find something that would be better, or you think it would be better, feel free to go to the chef and say, Chef, I've got an idea. Would you like me to share it with you? Rather than, Chef, I've got it. I know exactly. You'll end up in my day, they used to hang you on a meat hook in the deep freeze for half an hour to cool off. I think that doesn't happen anymore. Lead where you are. If you're in the scullery, lead. If you are chopping garlic, lead. Don't wait to be told what to do. Do something useful. If it means you have to help a colleague clean up, if it means you have to reorganize the deep freeze, just make sure you tell the chef where you've put everything. If you have to find something to do that's going to be useful. Why? Because employers are interested in people who take initiative. The last thing that you ever want to be found guilty of is waiting to be told what to do. Really, it's a problem. Employers today, we're operating on thin staff, skeleton staff in many cases. We need people who are going to hit the ground, running, make a call, and the best way you can do that is to lead where you are. And leading means just set a good example. Just do what you pay to do and do it properly. Practice makes permanent, I told you. And then this is something which in today's world, and again my daughter was telling me, you don't live in the world I live in, Father. I said, what, I'm dead? Anyway, we had a chuckle about it, and I understand where she's coming from because I said exactly the same thing to my parents. You don't understand me, Dad. No, actually I do. I just have a different frame of reference because I've lived a bit longer. So, do a little bit extra without being asked. You know how far that will go with your employer? When you stay an extra 10 minutes just to pack the shelf, or when you stay a little bit longer because you know tomorrow's function's coming and you think, Chef, I've got an extra 15 minutes if you like, I can chop some onions, or I can do some mise en place for tomorrow. The chef, he won't kiss you. She won't kiss you. But they'll remember. And the time comes when they are going to look for someone to do something important, and they'll remember you. Why? Because you did something a little bit extra without being asked. Say please and thank you. So often we don't see that happening anymore. When your salary comes, yes, you work for it, say thank you. It doesn't cost anything, but it earns you brownie points. Please speak in full sentences for those who don't understand text language. Okay? Really, this is a place of business. I understand the culture. I understand, Instagram and all of those good things. But this is a place of business, and we need to communicate in a way that's understood by everyone. And then the last thing on this section, and then I want to finish off, is please, can I say this with all the love in my heart, please realize that you don't know everything. And I don't say that to be cynical or sarcastic. You simply don't. That's okay. No one expects you to. But what people do expect is that you be teachable. And this thing today of, sorry, I'm talking about my family now. When my daughter was, I think, 6 or 7, she just started school. She came to me one day, we were disciplining her for something or other. And she looked at us and she said, I've got rights. My wife said, God gave you parents, you don't need rights. And she was like, okay. But here's the thing, we taught today that you've got rights, it's all about you. And maybe that's okay in your personal world or private world or whatever the story, but when you get into the place of employment, then it's about the business. And if you want to be successful in the business, you have to, and I say this with great respect, I'm an HR guy, right? Leave your rights at the door. The company's got values and it's got disciplinary codes and grievance procedures, and all of those good things are there for you to do to protect yourself, but you're there to do a job. So if you can keep that in mind, you'll do well. And then the last thing I just want to say is that Shani asked me for a quote, which, so I'll give you the one I gave her. And it comes from that thing of the personality ethic versus the character ethic. Any of you been to an old age home? Anyone? What do you see when you walk into an old age home in terms of the people? Have you ever thought about that? Anyone? Do you see happy people jumping up and down, full of zest for life? No. Some of them aren't. But the reason why the folks in old age homes are not always excited with life isn't necessarily because they're old. I know old people who are desperately excited with life. Why? Because they've got a purpose. But very often those people are in the mindset that they're in because they've spent their entire life building their personality. And the quote that I gave Shania was, when the charm wears off, there's only character left. So spend your life building character. Personality is cool. You're born with one. It won't go away. But character has to be developed. And that's about showing up on time, being respectful, doing the job you were asked to do, doing a bit extra, being honest. These are character issues. And if you can get that, just remember that one quote. When the charm wears off, there's only character left. So use your charm to get the job. And once you've charmed your way in, then start developing your character. If you can do that, you'll never have a problem with brand you. Because people, employers, will value what you have to offer. And so that's my story. Sorry if it sounded a bit preachy, but I care. I want you guys to do well.